Hello, everyone, and welcome back to your path to your finding your best emotional and physical health. My name is Erin, and I'm here to bring you information on getting as healthy as you can, both emotionally and physically. And today's topic is going to be a continuation of our series on preventing cognitive decline through lifestyle changes. So if you like what you hear, please forward this on to anybody else who might need it and to get that information. Also click subscribe and hit the thumbs up button so you can get notifications when new videos come out almost every day. So, and I almost forgot, if you also want more information, please download the 5 free videos on some brief tips on how to find your best emotional and physical health. So without further ado, let's get started. So I wanted to just kind of wrap up the whole nutritional thing today about, the way we are changing our diet in order to improve our overall cognitive functioning. So we've talked a ton about diet, and I'm going to kind of just wrap that up today with a little bit of details and a summary. So we know that, things need to be plant-based, based upon the information that we've discussed earlier, and that a heavy plant-based diet is going to be the most effective for both weight loss and improved cognition, rather than a really heavy meat or carbohydrate diet. And I'm talking about processed carbohydrates. So plant-based diet is going to be the best. Now, some people will argue you want to go complete vegan or vegetarian. I'm not sure that that's always good for all people. So you kind of have to see how you feel when you do that. The problem with that is a lot of times people that eat tons of plants and not any animal-based products may have some difficulties in some certain vitamins and nutrients. And you also have to kind of monitor the amino acids that you get, because not all plants have complete amino acids. There's a few of them that have complete proteins, such as chia seeds, which are nice in smoothies, hemp and quinoa, and those kinds of things. Soy, but soy has its own set of issues. So just kind of be aware of some of those things when we're doing overall plant-based diets. And sometimes plant-based diets can lead to deficiencies in a couple of different things: omega-3, choline, B12, vitamin D, retinol, and zinc. So we kind of have to be aware of those, and maybe the answer is to supplement, and maybe not. We just need to figure that out. I'm always a big fan of supplements because I just think it's easier than worrying about diet every 5 seconds and counting all that stuff. But as you're making these changes, it is very helpful to log your dietary changes so that you can kind of keep track of stuff and get a feel for what you need to be eating, and then monitor from there. So, omega-3s, as we talked about earlier, is the healthy fats, is something that we really need to kind of keep our brains working. It's the fats that are, anti-inflammatory and those kinds of things. Alpha linoleic acid is another name for omega-3s. And they actually can be found in some plant sources that I mentioned earlier, like chia seeds, hemp, and flax. So if you're adding those to smoothies and stuff like that, you're probably getting a little bit better amount of that form of fat in your diet than you might previously. Another form of ALA is the other word, or omega-3, is Brussels sprouts, seaweed, and walnuts. Now, you're not going to eat a ton of walnuts, so it might be a little hard to get that in there. And Brussels sprouts, if you're like me, not a big fan of Brussels sprouts, don't like the taste, a little bitter for me. But they really are a superfood. As I was reading through and preparing for this presentation, I was looking at all the ways that Brussels sprouts provides different nutrients, and I was like, sheesh, no wonder people should eat them and they're healthy. And that you always hear that, the stories of parents, you got to eat your Brussels sprouts to their kids. Not going to do it. So if you're not a Brussels sprout eater, you might have to figure out some other things to do to kind of maintain some of those things and some of the nutrients that we're looking at. Choline is another one, because choline is a necessary amino acid that helps build acetylcholine, which is the neurotransmitter that helps with memory. So again, that's found in Brussels sprouts. Not my favorite choice. But it's also found in avocados, which are the most fabulous superfood, I think, and they have all kinds of good things in them and good fats and stuff like that. And eggs, broccoli, and almonds are some of the top ones for for choline. So if you're eating some of those things in your diet pretty regularly, you're probably going to do pretty well with the choline. If you're doing a vegetarian diet and you need to supplement, there are some vegetarian supplements out there that will kind of help you get what you need with that. The other one that I see a lot that we actually test for when we're testing for cognitive decline is B12 deficiency. And I see a ton of this, mostly in the older age ranges, because that's what I do a lot of testing of with memory loss. But I'm starting to see it in younger people too, just probably because of poor diet and poor dietary function and lots of processed foods and low plants. So B12 is another one that we kind of have to consider, and it actually is really, really important to kind of help our mitochondria work and to help our energy levels. Anytime I see someone with depression that has a lot of low energy and feels fatigued all the time, I'm like, a little bit worried about B12. And so it's an easy thing to supplement because it's really, really hard to get toxic on. If you take too much, you just pee it out and it's not such a big deal. So the important things to know about B12 is that it's found in mushrooms, nutritional yeast, which is something that sometimes vegetarians will use to kind of give something a cheesy flavor, and the algae and kind of green superfoods that come from the sea. So, and those are usually found, of course, in a supplement form. So when we have problems with converting B12, we see this kind of elevated, what we call homocysteine. That's the other thing that we kind of look at, and that's a marker of inflammation in the blood vessels, which if you have high homocysteine, which we try to keep, if you're at 7 or below, you're doing better. I've tested people that are like 15 and above, and they have extreme cognitive problems. They might function okay in daily life, but they really are covering up what's going on in their brain, and they are 10.5 times greater risk for vascular dementia just because of that shrinking of the blood vessels and the lack of elasticity in those blood vessels. So when you're looking at supplements for B12, if you're not eating enough of it, because in food you're going to have the activated forms, which is adenosylcobalamin and usually hydroxycobalamin, depending on the food. But when you're ordering a supplement, you're looking for the true activated form, which is the methylcobalamin. A lot of supplements have cyanocobalamin, which is the cheap, more shelf-stable form. But unfortunately, that one takes longer to convert and has a couple of different steps. So if you're a poor converter based on some of your genetics, it's not going to be the best one for you. So you want to look for the methylcobalamin, which is already converted. There's a lot of risk factors for low B12. You're talking about the elderly, pregnancy, people that have had a bariatric surgery, taking of proton pump inhibitors. All of those things can inhibit B12. So keep an eye on that number if you can, and get tested for B12 if they'll do it. Anybody with neuropathy, I would always look at B12 because you can have neuropathy when you have B12 levels under 400. Another one that we don't get enough of, and I see a ton of this in young people as well, it's just unbelievable what's going on, and I'm sure it's contributing to our overall health problems in this nation, is our vitamin D. And I was surprised when I was kind of studying vitamin D a little bit that it actually goes into the nucleus and it acts both as a hormone and a communicator in addition to a vitamin and necessary for some of these building blocks. And it actually goes in and it turns on over 900 genes. So I would say it's pretty essential to making some of our body functions work. And if you're not a big milk drinker, like we talked about earlier about lactose intolerance and all of those things, we might not get enough vitamin D. And if a lot of times we're not getting out in the sun enough, a lot of people can't get out in the sun, or they wear sunscreen because they're worried about cancer and things like that. So supplementation of vitamin D is essential. So, it really works on our immune health and creates and maintains our synapses in our brain. So if we don't have enough vitamin D, we're going to have problems. And we're talking like people are in their teens and 20s and those kinds of things when you really want a vitamin D level of over 50 if you can, 50 to 80. Vitamin A is another one. We don't watch that one quite as often, but we see a lot of low levels of that, which would increase risk for cognitive decline. That one's a little bit easier to get because we're not required quite as much in our body to help function. But it's another one that we need to make sure we have. Vitamin K is an interesting one. It comes in two different forms based on whether it's the form in vegetables or the form in meats, and it gets converted to whatever we need to use. And it directs calcium from the blood into the bones rather than let it get stuck in the arteries where it could cause problems. And if you have excess calcium, you also can see things like increased pain, and the calcium voltage channels, which is just a fancy term for activating nerves, can kind of get left on. So we kind of want to monitor that a little bit. So leafy greens are your best form of that. But again, if you've on a blood thinner, a lot of times doctors say avoid that, so they kind of monitor your vitamin K levels, and that's okay too. If you're taking a lot of vitamin D, you might have to take a little bit of vitamin K to make sure you're utilizing it appropriately. And last but not least, there's zinc. And we rarely test for this, but it is also something that's pretty common in a deficiency, and it's actually will decrease inflammation and improve our overall immune function. The better our zinc levels are. There's not a lot of specific recommendations for actual zinc levels, and for our intake, it kind of just depends on what's going on. It actually can inhibit viral replication, so it's really good if to have a lozenge if you feel like you're getting sick, to kind of prevent that from growing into a problem. I know a lot of people that had very few symptoms of COVID when they had it, and because they took a zinc lozenge the minute they started feeling like there was something, and then it kind of inhibited the development, or that's the assumption anyway, that it inhibits the development of the virus within the throat. So it's just one of those things that we need a lot more of in our body than we typically get, because it's depleted a lot in our soils and not present in our foods. So if you're looking for some of these things, or looking to kind of understand them, there are a lot of opportunities out there to get them either tested on your own if your insurance does not cover it, and to have people that are trained in some of these methods, and a functional medicine doctor or somebody that is kind of understands nutrition can kind of help you see where you need to be, and kind of incorporate more things that are important into your diet that would bring those levels to where they're more appropriate. So with that, I don't have anything else, and I think we're about wrapped up on the diet stuff. So we're going to get into some other lifestyle stuff that actually can help. I mean, diet obviously is very primary regarding preventing of cognitive decline and keeping our mental health, intact. So, but there other things are really, really important as well. We cannot just do one and expect it to totally work, but it is definitely the foundation of the house, and now we can work on some of the other things to help support it. So if you have any questions, or you're looking for some personalized coaching around some of these health things and how to make changes in your life for your own benefit, please connect with me on the website, and we'll set you up with some time to kind of go over some of your options and set some goals to figure out what we need to do to help you live your best life. Thanks, and have a great day.